Hey guys, SaltEMike here, coming at you with another Star Citizen video. And this one's going to be the 3.6 PTU patch notes video. And a PTU patch notes video on this channel is always going to be the first patch right after the Evocati test flight. And we're going to show you kind of what to expect from this patch. In the future, what I'd like to do is basically throughout the week, Star Citizen is going to put out multiple patches fixing the issues with the initial PTU patch. In most cases, at least history in the past, is you're going to experience some instability, there's going to be lots of bugs, lots of issues, and gradually throughout the week, Cloud Imperium is going to fix those. Now, instead of doing a patch notes video on every single one of those patches, since most of them are quite small, I kind of want to do a summary video of that, maybe on Mondays in the future, and kind of summarize what those patches did throughout the week, and maybe you can expect a better experience or a new feature came in, so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the initial patch notes and what you should expect from 3.6. We have to start out with known issues. You will be likely to experience some instability and crashes with this patch. It's July 1st. It's the first patch of the PTU. It's very clear that they're running a bit late, and this patch probably isn't really ready by their standards, and I imagine it's not going to be ready by most people's standards, so expect some instability. Your ASOP terminals are not functioning at Area 18. I would say avoid that for now. This is the interesting one. Law system is partially implemented, as well as VoIP and FOIP updates. They will not be describing or taking feedback on them. I will describe later what we have now, but I find that interesting because we just watched an Inside Star Citizen with those fixes in, so I was kind of expecting those. And hover mode is kind of getting the same treatment. They're not really going to be taking feedback on it, although they do describe it. And in my opinion, it's going to need some work. I'm going to try to keep my opinions as out of this video as much as I can, but yeah. Now, before we get into any features of this patch, this was actually notified to me while I was making this video. Make sure you download the new patcher. There's a brand new patcher that has both the live and PTU builds on it. It's no longer separated. So make sure you guys download that. A lot of people didn't read that in the patch notes or recognize that. So PSA, download the new patcher, and then we can get right back into the video. All right, and we're going to jump into the new features section. And under general, they have listed head tracking, hold keybinds, as well as camera select. And what that means is now you can hold a button that activates head tracking. Before, head tracking was either on or it was off. And now you can hold a button, run in one direction, look in another. It's a very common keybind in most FPS games. And with camera select, basically you could choose the camera or device that you're using for head tracking. And this brings in, I think this is official support for Track IR. So you can actually select Track IR in this menu, which is pretty exciting. Under Universe, they only have listed added turrets to Grimhex, but I'm going to take this time in this section to discuss the law system with you guys. And, you know, my opinion on it is I think it's going to be a huge addition when it's even fully implemented for this patch to lay the groundwork for future gameplay mechanics. Like, bounty hunting is a thing, but until laws and all those things really come in, is it really a criminal yet? And like, this is laying the groundwork for what a criminal is and what they're not, as well as just kind of protecting us from griefing a little bit, the pad ramming, all that kind of stuff. But what it basically is a system of laws that come with a series of fines for breaking those laws, as well as punishments for breaking those laws, and a list of goods that are illegal in certain areas. And I'm going to go into that next, where certain areas have different laws than other places. Some places are free, like Grimhex, and other places, like around Port Olisar, Hurston, and ArcCorp, have a very different set of laws. Most of them are, the felonies are kind of similar, but what is illegal to sell there or have there are very different. in each place. It'll be very interesting to check out. If any of you guys are interested in checking those things out, you go to those locations, it'll tell you you're in their jurisdiction, and then you open up your journal and you can find out what is illegal to do and what is illegal to have in those jurisdictions. It's actually pretty cool. And under the missions tab, they've added illegal delivery missions for prohibited and stolen goods. So this is very similar to the box delivery missions, but on the unlawful side. And under ships and vehicles, we have hover mode added, and like they discussed in the known issues, they're not super happy with it yet. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. And on top of that, you've already kind of seen it on Inside Star Citizen, but if you haven't, hover mode auto engages at a slow speed and low altitude on planets and moons to kind of keep you afloat. You go into this mode, if you have made engines that can rotate, they will, and it will keep you at a 90-degree angle to the surface unless you give it another input. What that means, if you pitch down or forwards, your ship will start to move forwards towards the surface. If you pitch backwards or up, your ship will move backwards towards the surface. Same with side-to-side movement. If you roll, you will move side to side. And if you gain enough speed, you will automatically go back into a normal flight mode and fly around an atmosphere how you're used to. The one caveat would be if you're considering landing on Levski, Lorville, or Area 18 at ArcCorp, you're gonna have a hard time. Hover mode engages just as you're about to get ready to start entering these straight down into landing pads, and it's quite difficult to get used to, so it's going to take some practice. Don't get too frustrated. You'll get used to it, or they will continue to iterate on hover mode and make it a little bit easier, so don't stress about it too much. But you're going to lose some ships, I promise you. Speaking of ships, ship purchasing is in a much wider form. This is not just a small step in the right direction, it is a massive leap. They put a ton of ships to work towards now. The next step is really just getting persistence where we don't have to constantly work towards these ships. But for 3.6, this is an awesome little upgrade path for people that are just starting out with an Aurora or whatever. There's quite a few ships to work towards. I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's pretty likely that I'll have it up on screen for you guys there. But I want to ask you guys this. What ships are you super happy to have seen come in? And what ships would you have liked to have seen come in that maybe didn't make it in? They've also added the new ship, the Kruger Intergalactic P-72 Merlin. This is the ship that comes with the Phoenix, but you could have bought it as a standalone as well. And it's supposed to be like the racing variant, but it also comes with 2 additional guns. It's pretty cool, agile. There's really not much more to say about it. Same with the Max Ox Neutron Repeaters, which are a new ship weapon that's come in. We saw on ATV, or Inside Star Citizen, excuse me, that they have a really cool little feature where they glow when they're starting to overheat. They also did the grouped thrusters, or thruster wheel, where you can raise and lower the amount of thrust that's coming out of your maneuvering thrusters, or your thrusters in general. And this is a cool little feature because we're going to start getting more fine control of our ships, especially with this hover mode. We're going to need it. And I think you're going to start seeing some really cool pilots do some really, really cool things with something like this. Another thing about the group thrusters, if you take right alt and your mouse wheel and hold it and move the mouse wheel around, that's how you raise and lower the amount of thrust. And if you lower it all the way down to 0, if you're on a planet or moon with gravity, you will start to fall to that surface. If you engage them back, your hover mode will kick in and you should be back to a hovering ability there. They've also added cargo to the Valkyrie. This was in a forum thread a few weeks back, I think, and it wasn't that big of a deal to me. For me personally, I think the amount of cargo is sufficient. I think it's 30 SCU, and I don't think this makes the Valkyrie a killer cargo hauler or anything like that. I think it just makes sense for military missions or military-style orgs where they're going to want to bring some supplies to the battlefield or to an outpost, something like that. Makes sense to me, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. And that's really it as far as ship updates and new additions to the patch. Now under feature updates, which are updates to features which are already in Star Citizen that are getting updates in 3.6, we're going to look at universe updates, starting out with rest stop exteriors. And rest stops are the stations that are kind of plotted all around the Stanton system in the Lagrange points, and their exteriors all have great variations from one another. They were all pretty similar before. They're amazing. Go check them out yourselves. What you're seeing on screen and what you've seen on Inside Star Citizen does not do these things justice. They're big. Their landing pads are all of it. It's very cool. You should really go check them out. The only thing is that the interiors are the same as the old ones. As was said on Inside Star Citizen, we expect that to change and have exterior variations in the next patch, 3.7 most likely. They also moved Delamar away from Crusader and into its own object container. And this could have been done for a couple reasons. Maybe it was like a network thing on our client side, but most likely since Levski plays a big part in the new law system, and that section of the star map was just kind of empty for now, it was likely a gameplay decision. Talking about the law system a bit, commodity pricing is changing due to the addition of the law system with black market and stolen goods. So obviously, as you add things to the economy, you have to adjust the prices of things to make it make more sense. So we'll have to see what happens. I don't have a ton of information on this right now. Obviously, I like to do the how to make money in Star Citizen videos. This will be a huge part of this. So I'm going to do my research. Just be patient and we'll have it in a future video. The new transit system is in. This should make traveling through cities a lot easier. Before, it was a massive chore. I hope this is a step in improving that, and we'll just have to see. So pretty excited for that. Good friend of ours, Christian, works on that stuff, so really happy to see his work coming into the game. And now for some mining updates. Clustering mineable entities. So when you are scanning for rocks, instead of scanning one rock and maybe not liking what's inside and then moving on to the next rock, you spend a lot of time scanning when mining and not a lot of time mining when you take your prospector out. So hopefully this is an improvement for that, where when you scan for rocks, there'll likely be a few of them clustered in one area. And I haven't done a ton of research on this yet. What I'm hoping to see is if you find a good rock, there'll be a cluster of those good rocks in that area, so you spend a lot of time mining and filling up your prospector instead of scanning and looking for something to fill your prospector with. So looking forward to getting more time with this. I'm sure there'll be another video on this on the YouTube channel as well. Moving on to missions, they added ECN missions back in, and the big one for me is mission markers on bounty ships only move when you enter the mission area. So previously, we had a lot of issues with bounty mission markers because they weren't showing on the ships moving around for whatever reason. And for this, now when you take a bounty mission, it will tell you basically and mark their last known location of that bounty. And then once you get into that area, the game will actually update you where the ship is and you can fly towards it. I think bounty hunting was probably one of the more efficient ways to make money in 3.5, and it's probably even better because of this in 3.6. They also did some video call improvements. They look a bit better. Not great, but they look a little bit better. Just the idea of seeing a button where you can hail ships. There's also a button in your key bindings that can hail the ship that you're targeting. I'm not sure how well this works yet. This is one of those things that we may see improve throughout the PTU, but the roleplay potential here is real. FPS improvements, they improved character jump mechanic as well as the ragdoll. Jumping before just kind of looked like you jumped in the air and then were falling from, a tall building or something like that. So this is definitely an improvement on that. Ships and vehicles, they revised the P-52 Merlin, as well as updated the Gladius HUD. This one's important. If you guys didn't know, always check out the Gladius every patch, because specifically with UI, it gets the improvements first every time. So with the new thruster mechanic, they have their own little icon on the Gladius HUD, where other ships, they use the old fuel, the hydrogen fuel part of the HUD, as your thruster mechanic, and the hydrogen fuel now has a little percentage on your HUD. One of the big ones is they rework shields. I'm not really sure how I like this yet, and we'll kind of see how this goes, but for size 1 shields, they stop regenning when you get hit. They're mainly there to prevent any major damage being done initially in a fight, to create maybe longer fights, but they will not regen until a certain time period has passed where you have not taken any damage, and then your ship's shields will regen normally. Size 2 kind of works like the shields that we have now. They have low regen, but a reasonably high health pool. And size 3s are very large health pools and regen rates, with the hopes that will take a few ships to take down. So I'm assuming this is like Caterpillars, Hammerheads, maybe even Valkyries. I'm not sure what the shield size is on a Valkyrie. Power settings only impact your regen, so if you overclock, maybe you regen a little bit faster. And regen delay is per generator, not per face, so you guys know. And they also increased the damage output of missiles, so maybe these are going to be a nice kind of kill shot against some NPCs. We'll see how they work in PvP and so on. But that's kind of it for the feature update section of the patch notes. So we'll move on to the bug fix section of the patch notes, where I tend to do less of the B-roll videos and kind of show you what changes, and more just talk to you about what changes. And I select just the few bug fixes that I feel are important in this patch instead of all of them. So if you're interested in checking it out and seeing if any bugs that I don't mention got fixed that you deal with, I have the patch notes linked in the video description below. But getting right into it, missiles should now be able to be countermeasured properly. In 3.5 or 3.5.1, I can't remember, the missiles were now hitting more effectively, and you couldn't really countermeasure them. So now you can countermeasure them, so that's good. The comms MFD should now update properly. What that means is using your MFD on your ship to request landing. Once you left the area that you were in, it never really updated to the new area. Now it does, so adds just that bit of immersion back into the game. The Reliant series should now be able to store handheld cargo. Cool. Combat music should no longer seem much louder than others. This drove me mad for a while. I'm so happy to see this fixed. Fixed missing radar on customized ships. If you spent money on your 300 series, you now have a radar again. Congratulations. Fixed weapons should no longer aim towards the target as if gimbaled when in assist mode. So fixed weapons are acting properly. That's good. Increase the health of destructible turrets so they cannot be destroyed with melee attacks. That was ridiculous. No more pistols blowing up turrets, hopefully. Updated spline jumps to avoid impacts with the planetary body. I've seen this in the patch notes multiple times. Hopefully this is the last time. Rudo's face should now appear. This is my reminder to tell you guys to try the Rudo mission if you haven't yet, because it's really fun, and it's very different from all the other mission givers in the sense that the missions are the same, but there's something very unique to it, so go check it out yourselves. Party launch and join friends should now work from the main menu. Go enjoy 3.6 with your friends. Have a great time. Use the issue council. And if you guys like this video, make sure you hit that like button and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think about kind of the way I want to do the future patch notes throughout the week, as well as subscribe if you're new here and you enjoyed this content. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great one and enjoy 3.6, everybody.